So welcome everybody. My name is Jordan. I think I'm gonna know everybody. Welcome to Sewing Circle for everybody who hasn't been here. It's pretty chill. It's a kind of an open table, creative space. We meet every other Monday, and we just started Artist Talks. So I'm very excited to have Maddie join us for the Artist Talk. Maddie is a ceramicist, which is awesome. I don't know anything about ceramics, which is why I invited her on to talk about her process and her art and kind of dig into some of that kind of stuff. So let's hear it for Maddie, everybody. Way!
Thank you. Thank you. No, sit down, please. I thank you, Jordan, for having me. Yeah, really excited to be part of this and then also get to come back and work on my little felt projects that I have here. Yeah. So my name is Madison Beard, Madison Misaki Beard. I go by the moniker Misaki Asano. Misaki is my middle name. And Asano is my mother's maiden name and also my birth name. Yeah, I go by that just because I feel so inspired by my Japanese heritage. Yeah, I was born in Japan, moved to California when I was like 5, still go back every once in a while. I went to school at Merced College and I just got my AA, and then after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I went to visit my family in Japan, and for 3 months just to be over there and hang out with my aunt. And you know, everyone was working, so I was just kind of ditzing around to different museums, and it was really an inspiring time to get to see the Japanese like heritage and the culture of ceramics. I feel like I went to museums or even just like coffee shops or wherever, and the ceramics were just so integrated into life. And it was beautiful to see. So I had already been pulled to ceramics before. You know, you interact with it a little bit. You're inspired by, I don't know, playing with mud or whatever. But yeah, I went back to school for ceramics. I went to Fresno State and studied studio art ceramics. And that was a really great time for me. I create, Jordan, we didn't touch base about how to use this. Do I do arrows?
You just let me know when you want the new slide.
Okay, next slide. Okay, great. Jordan, could you for me? Thank you.
Gotcha.
Cool. So yeah, I create functional ware. I also create sculptural ware, sculptures, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, I have kind of 2 things I feel like I'm known for or gravitate towards, which are these really fun, playful mugs with faces on them. I'm honing it in, but I think the idea of having a really beautifully like balanced mug with like a really childlike, poorly done like face on it is really funny. And I've been really inspired by that. One day I was making something and I was really frustrated with the form, and so I was like, I'm gonna ruin this. So I ruined it, but it wasn't ruined because I saw it fully through, and it turned out to be like one of my favorite pieces. And I sold it at a thing in Fresno called Art Hop, where every month on the first Thursday, artists show, the galleries just open up and everyone floods the streets. And I sold it at Art Hop for $100 because I loved it so much that I said, if anyone wants this, it's $100, and they bought it. So I've kept it going, and it's been a beautiful thing to create, and very playful when I'm feeling annoyed with the form. I also create, I kind of can see it on the right side, but there are these cups that are kind of warbly and wobbly. And I think this is kind of goes back to my inspiration of my Japanese heritage. They just create work that is so, I like, you know, we hate to bring it up all the time, but like the wabi sabi of it all, the imperfectness, or the you know, perfection and imperfection. And I love creating these forms, these mugs, and even just cups that are, each one is so different, but they're all the same. You can kind of see that I basically, when the form is still wet and it's still on the wheel, I'll take 2 fingers and a finger, and the clay will be like right in between, and I'll just move my fingers up and down. You know, sometimes the clay is wetter, it dips a little more, and it just, the experience in drinking some out of that form is just different every time. And I love that your hand holds different curves in different spots each time you pick it up. So I'm really inspired by that, and feel like that, you know, thinking about Japanese plating and Japanese form of functional ware being very practical, but still very beautiful and artful and sculptural, is really inspiring to me. So that's something I'm also trying to integrate together, is functional ware and sculptures as well. Jordan, next slide, please. So these are my kind of earlier works. I really love these forms. The first top 2 are the same from different angles, but these are my, I can't remember what I called them. I think something about safe space or place or something. But yeah, the clay, so the bed is made out of clay and the wood is wood. But at the time I was really inspired by the safety and the coziness of a bed, and how, well, or not the safety of the coziness of a bed, just the conversation about that space and how, what it should be and what it is or isn't. And even at the time too, I did a couple of offshoots of this piece that, or this like series where it was talking about, I don't know, houselessness, talking about immigration, of like the right to a bed, but the, like how it's just become a privilege, and how it's, I don't know, should be a human basic right. So it stemmed from, you know, my long distance boyfriend at the time, now husband, but has evolved into, yeah, a series about a lot of different things. And that's something too, that like, I am not, I have so much to say right now. Ceramics is such a technical medium, and, you know, you have to create the work, and then you have to let it dry, and then you can alter it when it's a little more dry, and then you fire it, and then you glaze it, and then you fire it again. And I'm just not a technical person. So in my art and in the things that I create and make, it's often feeling based. It's a lot of memories. It's a lot of present moment and past. I don't really look towards the future, or like, I mean, I do, but not, at least in my art or topics of my art. But yeah, so it's an interesting thing to be a ceramicist and also not be a very consistent person in that space, just because ceramics does require consistency and patience, and that's not something that I feel like I'm known for in my life. So also too, from that, I think I'll touch on it later too, but I have found myself wanting to start calling myself like a multimedia artist, because I love other things like felt or photography, or things that I've been playing with. I'll take a Polaroid photo and then I'll cut out the film of it and put it in water and then replace it onto a like paper. So there's just other things that are so artful in my life that I've been trying to integrate into ceramics too, thinking about how I can take that Polaroid film that like and put it into on a ceramic piece, and then like, I don't know, from there, like not Mod Podge it, but you know, figure out a way to implement it and make it more permanent in that way. Yeah. Okay. Jordan.
Can I ask you a question before you?
Of course.
Slide? Can you help us with scale? Like, what are the size of those beds?
Yeah, so that will probably be, so if you're looking down at the bed, that's probably like 11 by 17, maybe 12 by 17. So when I would carry it around, it was like this on me. The smaller bed down below is probably like a normal piece of paper size, like 8x11. And they're fully they're boxed in. So the top one that I did, I first created the box form, and I had to, start with the slab square on the bottom, and then bring up the slabs on the side. And then in between are also slabs to make sure it stays a box, just with the drooping and everything, which is very difficult because I'm not very precise and like mathematical and that kind of stuff. So that was frustrating. Actually, this piece has a huge crack in it, but I filled it and matched the paint onto it, so you can't really tell. Just because it was for a show and it was coming down to the wire. It was for I don't know if you guys have heard of CACA, but it's the ceramic conference, the national conference that happens in Davis every year. It just happened in April, but yeah, I think it was 2018 CACA conference that I was making that for. Yeah. So that top one is a decent size. It was very heavy. It was ceramics, just clay. Yeah. Cool. The next slide are kind of, my beginnings. I can see the growth and evolution of my desire to integrate sculptural work and functional ware. So this is, it's so funny. I feel like all the topics I have been creating for are about space and place. Because these were for an art hop showing about space and where we've come from. And these drawing depictions on these different forms of plates are just memories that I have of my life. So on the top left is in Japan, they have shrines everywhere, and they have these things called shides, and that basically it just indicates a sacred place. So the form coming down is just a piece of paper folded in a specific way to create that look, and it just indicates a sacred place, and they're everywhere at all the Buddhist shrines. The top middle is a vending machine from Japan. Just an iconic, very nostalgic thing for me. I wanted to make note that it is one of the vending machines that has hot coffee in it. Very important. Yeah, very good. Not gross. Very yummy. And then on the top right, growing up, I lived in this house, and it had a palm tree. Sorry, my dogs are barking at the other dogs. I don't know if you can hear it. I lived at a house that had a palm tree and a light pole right next to each other. And I just had like undiagnosed anxiety. And I almost every night would look up at it because I was in a bunk bed with my sister. My sister was on top and I was at the bottom. And I would look up out the window and I could see it. It was I remember an orange light. And I was like, that is going to catch on fire. That palm tree is going to catch on fire and it's going to burn and then fall on our head. And then I would fall asleep. So I don't know. It's just like a vivid memory I have of that like home that we lived in. And so I drew it. And the bottom right is an orchard because I grew up on an orchard, an almond orchard in Delhi, California, for up until I was 22, 23. And that was a great, lovely experience. And then the bottom left is a poem about place. I can't read it right now, but it's a beautiful poem. I'll figure it out and I'll send it to Jordan so he can include it in the newsletters. So just trying to integrate more of sculptural work into ceramic. Even I created in Japan in the bathhouses, which I loved going to. I love going to. They often have a huge mural of Mount Fuji because Mount Fuji is just such like a lucky thing for Japanese people when they get to see it. It's very I don't know what the word is, like it's just good luck because Fuji is only honestly visible for 30% of the year. And so when you see it, it's kind of a sign of good luck. But I made my mom and dad, they were making a Japanese bath in their house, and I made them a 3-piece tile of Mount Fuji. So I'm very interested in, like, I don't know, creating sculpture out of like functional ware too, maybe getting into tile. Yeah, very interesting. Or even just creating really elaborate, beautiful plates and to get used and then broken. I think I love the idea of like how permanent ceramics is, but I also love how like they break I don't know, they're just so fragile. They're so beautiful and fragile. And like, I have this dream, I guess this is being recorded and I'll just say it anyway. I have this dream of one day becoming a huge artist, well-known, people know me, and creating a beautiful, elaborate piece of art that gets installed in a decently sized museum and doing an artist talk and seeing it through, whatever. And then on a random Tuesday, putting like a mask on and going in and just like smashing it. Like even the other day I had an art show and I was like, I just want to grab it was these plates specifically. And I don't know. So I think maybe in the future I'll be into performance art as well. But yeah, I love the idea of like how permanent these moments can be when I'm in the process of creating something. It captures how wet the clay was or how dry it was. You know, a crack is because it was so dry. But then also they're so fragile. Like I've gotten so many mugs back. I have one person who I make this mug for her that she bought from me. And it says on it, eat good food, drink good drink and love. I don't know, something kind of, it's not as cringy as what I just said, but like, it's kind of nice and whatever. And she's broken I've like made her 3 of those mugs and she's broken every one. So I just keep making different versions of that mug for her because I know she's going to break it. And I love that. It's I don't know, the idea of the fragility of something that's so, I don't know, was fired and is so strong, but then also like can break because you nicked it a little bit. It's kind of beautiful. Yeah. Okay, next slide, Jordan. Thank you. Yeah, so these are kind of like just a couple of my film photos that I've done. And I'm really, wanting to like implement more. I actually had another photo I was going to put in here, but I couldn't figure out how to send it. It's one of those Polaroids that I was talking about, but it was a Polaroid of a ceramic piece I had created where I cast my body. I was also going to send that, but it was my nude body. So I was like, maybe we'll get to know me first before sending that. But I did a show, I think in 2023 or 2022. And it was again about place. It was about memories and nostalgia and like, actually it was more about like how I feel in my own body. And so I cast my body, my front, and then I also cast my butt, which was really nice because I was sitting. And I don't know, just the idea of like a sat butt was really nice to capture in clay because it's just so flat. And so I cast my body, and then I also took a photo of that cast and lifted it out of the Polaroid and put it on there. So there's just so much that I'm interested in. I feel like that's my creative process, as I kind of go where the wind takes me. Like currently, I haven't been in the studio very much, but I've been doing kintsugi at my house. So the art of repairing old or broken pieces with gold. I have like 3 pieces currently that I'm working on, and which just take time. So, I'm in the beginning stages of it. And I've done it before, but actually I have one right here. I'm going to go grab real quick. My husband broke a mug I made him in undergrad, and he was so sad. And so I bought a kit and I didn't read how to use it, and I just did it. And it doesn't hold any liquid anymore because I didn't seal it correctly. So he like put hot coffee in it, and it was just like, but I love this mug. But yeah, so I did it in gold, and it's on the inside too. Yeah, so I'm gonna do it again, and I think oh yeah, this was made in 2017. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm working on. I'm wanting to expand and like dip my hand into other mediums and art forms like painting too. And painting, I don't know, I was telling Jordan because he was making all of the marketing and the everything for this little like talk, and I was just like, I feel like I like the composition of things, but I also don't think I'm very good at it. Or like fonts. Jordan's very good. I mean, this is probably a basic font, but like very good font. I love the font. So I'm interested in exploring those things too. And even my felt, I was telling Jordan earlier before we started that for Christmas, I was making like stockings out of felt and like little ornaments. And my sister recently had a baby, so I had for a baby shower and made like these felt little signs of her dog. So wanting to make like my friends ornaments of their dog. So just creating in every aspect of my life. Cooking. I've been really into Japanese like cooking, like just simple stuff. And that's been filling me with a lot of joy of just being able to connect back to my heritage, use my ceramics, make chopstick rests and things that just kind of all go together. Yeah, that's me and my process and my art.
That was amazing. Thank you,
Thank
Maddie.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well done, my friend.
Thank you.
If anybody has, well, I have a question for you. So you mentioned that you were like kind of like chilling in Japan and you were going to museums, and that was a particular inspiration point for ceramics. Was that kind of the first time that you had connected with like this particular medium in a way where you're like, oh, I want to go do this? Or were you like always kind of a tactile, like play with mud in your hands kind of person?
Yeah, I mean, I think I will say that that's probably the first time I was really maybe inspired, but also like, oh, I could do that kind of feeling, because I think I've always had the desire to be creative. But I think what I am really strong in is my ability to connect, and I love people. And so I always, that was just the most obvious strength of mine, not my creativity necessarily. So doing something that feels so isolating, like studio arts or something creative or introspective for someone like me who's an extrovert, wasn't always just on top of mind. But yeah, when I was in Japan, experiencing those and hearing like more stories about the process and how it's really like community oriented, the act of using the ceramics over a meal shared together is the purpose of those things being created. So it did make it more accessible to me, knowing that, it was created in like some of them wood fire kiln that had to be done by multiple people, or like, the art of certain things is like a cohort or a group of people learning these ancient traditions. So that trip made it feel more accessible and not so black and white in terms of like what, art or artists can be. Yeah.
That's super cool. Because I like what you said, particularly about the experience of studio arts can at times be pretty isolating, right? Especially if you're hanging out by yourself in the studio and trying to like find every which way to make either a work happen or even where to begin, kind of thing. So I definitely appreciate that's super cool that the communal aspect of this particular medium was what kind of drew you in.
Mm-hmm.
That's yeah.
Yeah. And even now too, like I was telling someone recently that when I went to college, we have our group. There was like a core group of people who were going through the process together. We ended up graduating together, and we were ceramicists. And I had such a hard time. I haven't stayed as connected with them. They always invite me to things, and I feel like I don't know what it is. If it's like I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily competition, but there is this naturally isolating thing about art, or like your own process, your own creative space that I feel so protective of. So I have still been, I feel like pulling there's a push and pull between this community versus your own internal, how you're doing it yourself. We were talking about earlier of it is so easy to isolate yourself away from the art community around. I'm in Fresno, it's great and wonderful. And to not utilize it is silly. And so I've just been thinking about that a lot too. So I feel like a constant topic on top of mind.
Anybody else with questions? You can either chime in or leave them in the chat, whatever you feel in your heart.
Madison, are you affiliated with a gallery in Fresno?
I am not, but I know a lot of them in Fresno. We all know each other for the most part. There's Claymix, and they aren't necessarily a gallery, but they're more so a store, and you can do memberships and stuff there. Then do classes and things like that. There's plenty of galleries in Fresno. There's Scarab Arts as well in downtown, and they are great. I really like them. Hannah, I think it's Hannah Ray Ceramics. She does a lot of classes, but she is an amazing potter down there. So I'm kind of I know the communities, but I have my own studio. I've been blessed with a space that I get for free, and so it's poorly ventilated, I'll say, but it wasn't made for ceramics, so I kind of take what I could get and wear my mask when I can. But it's just my own little studio with a warehouse that I have my kiln in. So it's easier to be isolated in that space too, because I can just go off and be on my own at my studio without being in community with people. But I'm trying to be better about it. I think it's also I don't know what it is. Maybe it is competition and I'm just in denial, because it's easier to be in community and in art community with people. I have friends who do leather work, or I have painter friends and stuff like that we've been conversations about things. And I'm I guess, I don't know, could just be something. I don't know. Don't want to get too deep in why I feel that way right now, because this isn't therapy.
You can't have any friends that do the same medium as period.
Yeah. That's the rule of culture number 7.
I'd love to hear some of the artists talk about that. Working together, Rodney, you're on mute if you're trying to say something.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, my mic is always off and I can't tell. Okay, so now, Madison, I enjoyed hearing you talk and show your work. I had questions about the bed pieces first. How do you determine the scale, the size of those? Because I could see them being very, very small and tiny, with porcelain, or I could see it being a life-size bed, out of other materials or maybe clay. How do you choose the scale?
I made them as big as I could that would fit in the kiln.
Got it. I was going to say that.
Yeah,
Okay.
The bigger bed that I had made was my first one, and that one I was I want to make a huge. I even thought about making that. So that was maybe a little 12 by 17. So just a decent size. I thought about, okay, what if I did this in pieces? So what if I made
kind of nice because that would give a nice reference to the clay constantly. You know, how
Mhm.
it's broken in pieces for a kiln. So
Yeah,
my other question, well, I do still have you, is oh, you use the word integrating a lot, and integrating different aspects of your life, your work, your emotions, relationships, whatever. So the question about that, like on the, well, I'll just give you an example of what I saw. The plates and the shapes that had drawings on them. First of all, is the drawing done with a glazed pencil, or is that just drawn lead pencil, not fired?
it was glazed pencil.
Okay. The other one is, I noticed on some of them, the shape itself and the way you handle the shape was referential in the image as well. In other words, they began to interact with each other, which I really liked. I think it was the second one on the top, on the right. It had a little pinch mark in 4 places or 6 places on the side, and then a very simple thing with words on it in the middle. And so I thought that was integrated. In other words, you know, that's what I was looking for, is where the integration happens, like with that clay form and your memory or your idea and all that. So, oh, and my main question is why do you think it's so important to integrate everything? That's the question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that you noticed the integration of the form as well, because you can't tell too on the orchard piece that it is really rough. It's like a really rough piece of like a plate. It was mainly slab work because, you know, just dirt and nature and that. So I appreciate that you noticed that. But I think, I don't know, I'm just such an emotional person. I think I'm such a feelings-based person. I think I can't do anything without, you know, my emotions or my experience being presented. It's almost like, I don't know, like why do anything if it's not integrated? You know, like to me, that's my perception of it. Of like, I can't help it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I just want to encourage you to see the art itself as the integration, as the object, and that I'm a painter. I don't know, but yeah, I just felt like I heard what you're saying, and I understand the need. I'm hearing that really well personally, but as art too, when does that object become its own? And happens. It's like what I was seeing in that one piece particularly that I felt was integrated was really awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I hear you. I've been, you know, thinking about where my art comes from. I feel like it's, you know, I think I did really well in college because I got a prompt. We always had something to work off of. And that, you know, made it easier to create something. You know, I could be like, oh, okay, yeah, I have an idea immediately. But I, you know, outside of college, you know, I feel like I'm still like baby artist a little and trying to figure out that voice or that intention. And the easiest thing for me lately is that integration, is that intention of like, you know, like where I've come from, or where I've like what is happening in the present moment. And so yeah, that is an interesting topic. I've been thinking about where my art comes from in me, and how, you know, and whether or not it becomes its own entity. I do wish I had put in my I did a solo show, and the pieces really did stand on their own. Maybe I'll send that to Jordan too for him to share. But those I feel like really spoke on their own in the same way that some of the plates do. And yeah, I appreciate the thoughts and the encouragement.
I wanted to speak to that idea about like sense of competition. Hi for everyone. I'm new here, and I am also a Fresno artist. And Madison, I'm like so excited to hear about your work because I definitely have never done ceramics at all, even though I have an art degree. But so I really like to hear from people that are passionate about it. And I am starting this project in Fresno called the Artist Mentorship Project, where I'm facilitating mentorships between older artists and emerging artists. And in that, I'm starting to get to know all the different groups of artists in our community. And I felt like I had known a lot of people beforehand, but now it's like exploding. And I'm starting to get really overwhelmed by how much talent there is in our big city, and feeling like this sense of competition that like, oh my gosh, I just went to a show on Thursday night that was entirely black and white art done by tattoo artists. And I'm like, their drawing skills blow me out of the water. And so when you go into something, I think it's really normal for us to always be comparing ourselves. And I'm encouraging our mentors too, because in Fresno, there's so, like, the ceiling of what you're able to achieve is so low. Like, there's just not a lot of infrastructure for success, and there's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of growth opportunities. So I do feel like I had to, at our mentors training, let them know that the goal here is to get our mentees to where they want to go. And a lot of the mentors haven't achieved some of those goals. And so there's going to be times where you're going to start feeling jealous of your mentee. And I think that I challenged them to think about, being able to check that within ourselves over and over and over, and realize that like success for one of us is success for all of us. But it's still really hard. And I think also, like Madison, you were talking about earlier, our artist coven, we have like close to 20 women now, where we meet every month, and we are all different kinds of artists, and that gives a really good opportunity to practice not being jealous, because there's some really heavy hitters in our group. Yeah, practice being like applauding for each other no matter what. Like, so I don't know if other people have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it is interesting because I also too feel like I've already experienced this in a way. I grew up in a more predominantly white area, and I was like one of two Asian people. And so there was that similar sense of competition in it, of like, well, I'm the number one Asian person. And, I'm Japanese, and she was, I think, Vietnamese. So we're like different. And like, but we often got mistaken for each other and that kind of stuff. And it is that same thing. Like, it's a lesson I've learned already in a different vehicle, in a different space. And, hearing you say those words, I'm like, oh, I went through this already. Like, it's that thing of, yeah. And then also too, like, I think Fresno is beautifully, I don't know, I hesitate to use the word grassroots, but because there is that lack of infrastructure, because there, isn't that money and that stuff, it, does feel like there's limited resources, but also like a need to lean on each other. And I think that that's so inherent in the conversations that I have with people, but everyone who does ceramics is not my style. So there's this thing of like almost like a protectiveness of myself, of I love to do collaborations. I love to do that. I've even talked with Jordan. I think we still need to do it with like, I hate glazing. I hate it. That's why most of my stuff is like white and like maybe a pop of color. But I, making form and giving it to an artist or a painter or a visual, someone who does that, to take it over and create their own work on top of mine, is beautiful and a beautiful idea. But I'm like only with painters, or, like only with, because it's just, I don't know. It's an interesting thing now that I think about it a little more, of like, it's also kind of this desire to protect my own like style, or not who I'm affiliated with, because I love everyone, but that's the thing. I love everyone. Everyone is my friend. And so that's where it gets like a little hairy, because it's almost this like, I just don't want to say no. So I don't even put myself in that position to be asked the question to have to say no. Wow, a lot of processing happening here.
That's what the point. It's open table, right? So that was the intent originally, right? To like actually get into some of the weeds of this kind of subject. I appreciate Ruth's point too, that like the checking yourself in all of this is really, really important, because ultimately you're engaging in these sorts of like practices for not just yourself, right? But it's also for the connectedness with other people. So I think that's really like a salient point, Ruth. Anybody else, or is it time to draw a little bit, or whatever else?
Well, I'm interested in hearing your perspective, Jordan, because you're such a people person and a community person.
Sure.
And yet you do work alone a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And live alone a lot of the time.
Yeah. It was a real issue for me having a studio both in Minneapolis and then here in Oakland, where I think I realized that the isolation was not a way that worked for me. And realizing that was important, then now that's actually kind of why I started this thing, right? To like at least be in community with people and like actually talk about some things that I think I was thinking a lot about while I was hanging out solo in the studio. I also find I've done quite a few collaborations, particularly with a friend in Minneapolis, that I found the energy very, very different in terms of the process and making, and the ability of we bring kind of parallel. Well, actually, he's been in the sewing circles. Derek, I think you might have met him a time or two. Anyway, we bring like kind of parallel energies and sensibilities in the work that we're and the things that we're trying to kind of go after. And so, but it's been cool to like, I don't know, it's a little bit of a dance, right? When you paint collaboratively with somebody. And that's like it's been a really fun and enjoyable process, much more so than I need to go down the mental rabbit hole of my family history and my ancestry and all of the through lines of that, what it means to be Mennonite and blah, 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 and all the things that come with that kind of thing, which is what happens in the mental loop, to me, at least in that isolation. It's kind of this almost hamster wheel kind of thing when I'm by myself. So,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
that's a bummer.
That's why I let go of the studio, because it was this is working. Yeah. So probably for like my mentals, it's better that I have just like home stuff, but now I think the time away has been good to them. Now I like want to get back in a more communal space, like a studio that has a bunch of people in it. And there's a couple here in like Emeryville and Berkeley that I've been looking at. So I don't know. It's all an experiment. You know what I mean? There's this really great line from a Hmong author named Cao Kalia Yang, and I love it so much. And the line she wrote was, "What is life but a try?" And that's like the whole thing. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there you go. Any other questions? I think it's drawn time, maybe. Thank you, Madison.
Thank you, Madison.
I'm going to also post this later for everybody. I said 5 to 7 minutes, and we're like at 53. So,
Nuh-uh.
It's fine. The conversation needs to roll as it needs to roll. You know
I
what
like
mean?
it.
Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just teasing you. You can go as long as you want.
Oh, good.
I
'Cause
love it.
did.